as Rebekah mentioned, my name is Rebekah Dorn, and I serve as the Director of User Experience at Florida State. And so this was a paradigm shift that we started several years ago where we really wanted to care about that user's experience. Not only do we want to create innovative technology and have a really good experience, we ultimately go out and talk to those users about what they want, what they like, what they don't like, where can we make improvements. And so we spend a lot of time on the ground, beating the streets, if you will, to see where we should make those improvements and how we should make those improvements. And so today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our history of how we got to that place, and then we're going to talk about our latest implementation, and that is with the X module and how we've implemented that at FSU. And then we're going to share with you guys a little bit of our roadmap of our strategy for next steps. Sound good? Now, I can't promise that I'm going to do any Simon Says, so if I see anybody falling asleep, how about I just throw this remote at you guys? Does that sound fair? All right, cool. So you only interact if I throw something at you. Cool? Okay, great. So this is a little bit about Florida State University. We have 41,000 students, over 14,000 employees, making up 16 different colleges. We're currently ranked number 26 by USA Today reports. We purchased Moto Labs back in 2016 and did our first implementation that same year. So we have been with them, pushing the envelope, like Rebekah said, sometimes in the best ways and sometimes having a good time about it as we start to think innovatively about ways that we can take things to the next level based on what those users are telling us that they want and they need. So it's been fun. So like I said, FSU has a very user-centric design, and so we go out and we talk to users, and then we come back and we do designs, and then we float it back to the users to see if we're right. Sometimes we are, and sometimes we're not, and so we need to make sure that we are ready and agile to be able to make those changes whenever necessary so that we really are doing products and services based on what those users want. And so I think you'll see throughout this presentation different ways that we are implementing that on a regular basis. So how many people had to take a flight to get here today or yesterday? Okay, so I did as well from Tallahassee. And whenever I booked my flight through a web browser, I got my confirmation. We used Concur, so a Concur process sent me through, and immediately I get an email response that says, would you like to add these to your calendar? So I clicked yes, and immediately it was put on my Outlook calendar. The date, the time, the confirmation numbers. So whenever I arrived to the airport yesterday morning, I didn't have to look through my emails. I didn't have to try very hard. I clicked on that event in my calendar on my phone, and my confirmation number for Delta popped up immediately. And I didn't have to go searching for it through all my emails. So automatically, all these different vendors that we interact with on a regular basis are already trying to integrate that experience for us. Then, whenever I got up to the gate, I didn't even need to have a printed board pass because it was in my wallet, right? Everybody had a similar experience where it's just all integrated in there for me. It's very seamless, it's very easy, and it's using multiple pieces of that touch point. And it seems like it was just one experience, but if you start adding all those up, we talked about Concur, we talked about my email, we talked about my calendar, and we talked about my Apple Wallet. 4 different things had to all work together. And as technologists, we know that somebody had to make all that work. But as a user, I just think I had a good experience with Delta, other than the delay, right? So this is something that users are expecting on a regular basis. And so the college environment is no different. Users expect to have that same experience. And now we're getting to this place where students have the choice of which college and which institution they want to go to. And the only thing that's really going to make them decide if they're going to go to Florida State University or they're going to go to University of Florida or University of Central Florida is if they have this amazing experience, the one piece of that's going to tip them over the edge. And so what we want to do is we want to be that tipping point. We want to be that user experience that people want to come, especially to Florida State University, and get an experience, not just an education. It's something that all of our users are demanding these days. There's also been a technology shift in the environment. So not only are we now having these system of records, which are banner systems, our PeopleSoft systems, all these ERP systems, there's now this shift in the culture where there is a system of engagement, where people want to interact back and forth versus just have a single point where I go and do business. People want this back and forth and it to be something I experience and enjoy versus just something that I go to get. We likewise not only hear this in industry, but we also heard it from our students on campus. They said, people use their phones and tablets for nearly everything now, and having a functioning website that can be accessed from all devices is crucial. Make the interface more user-friendly. Send notifications that go to your phone. Make it simpler to search and enroll in classes. Make it work on phones. Okay? So back in 2016, that's when we started our continuous release cycles. So we realized that one way to keep students engaged in this process was to constantly engage them. Instead of just doing one big bang release and then forget it, we needed to constantly engage them and have rolling releases so that they realized that this is something that they wanted to keep on their phone because something new and something they needed was going to keep coming. And so this was our first one out of the gate. In 2017, early 2017, we released our guest persona. And so this is, naturally you would fall into this. Our history is that we were a Blackboard mobile school, but prior to coming to Modo. And so this initial out the gate is a one-for-one match of what we did in Blackboard. We then flipped over and were able to do with Modo. Then about 6 weeks later, we released to faculty and staff. And we were able to use the partner Appsian, it was previously Gray Heller, to be able to provide some of this functionality of benefits and personal and time and managers and paycheck, so that these employees could go into our PeopleSoft systems that have the layer of Appsian/Gray Heller on top of it, and it looked like a mobile experience. It was the same branding, same user flow, and we were able to really curate that experience so that users wanted to use those pages on the mobile app. Now, if you've ever used PeopleSoft without some kind of wrapper on it, you can appreciate that there's a lot of pinching and zooming and a little bit of an awkward experience, right? No one wants to do that on a mobile device unless they absolutely have to approve time before you get the nastygram, right? So with this wrapper, we were able to curate this experience so it was something that people wanted to do. They wanted to choose to do it on their mobile app, even if they had a computer handy. We also were able to, you can't see it much on the bottom half of the screen, but we were able to provide other useful non-authenticated tools down at the bottom part of the screen, namely maps, alerts, the directory, things that they also needed, but were not going to be something specific to our PeopleSoft systems. So we added at this point just some overall modules from PeopleSoft where you had to CAS authenticate in to get to them. Then our next release, we did several releases for students. And you can see, as other people have mentioned, we have a different persona based on students, staff, or guests. And we categorized them into these areas. And so whether it was my to-dos or my holds, or whether that was drop classes, add to cart, things like that, they're all in their respective areas. And then as you click on a bar, it drops down and there's a series of icons under each one. So we were able to add a few icons into each section through these rolling releases. So every 6 weeks, we made a commitment for about a year and a half that we would keep adding more and more content into the mobile app so that users knew they could keep coming back and getting more and more tools and resources that they could use to be successful. So these were some of our goals as we went along. We didn't just do this haphazardly. We really wanted to make sure that we were improving the experiences, and there was being guided by insight, by not only data analytics, but what our partners were saying across campus. And so we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to find new things. And we had some things that we were going for to be a top 25 school. As you saw, we're 26, so we gotta keep going, right? We got a little bit more to go. So then we partnered with Modo Labs to do this really exciting work called My Persona. Has anyone had a chance to participate in My Persona? So a few people are taking advantage of it. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to customize that experience even more. Instead of just simply having something where you could log in and see information on CAS, we were able to start to build things based on who you were. So we had people log into the mobile app immediately once they got to a persona, and based on what they logged in or who they logged in as, we curated that experience even more so that certain things appeared based on who you were. So you'll notice in this image, there's a block right here. And if I went back before, see if I can quickly go back, you'll notice that manager's piece is there now. So I'm a manager, so I see this one. But those who aren't managers would see a block, so would see nothing, okay? Because they weren't a manager. They didn't need to have extra things in their face distracting them from work that they didn't need to do. Likewise, once I was able to see when a student was graduation eligible, I started to put in an icon for them that says, hey, congratulations, you're eligible to graduate now. Here's an icon that you can go to. And all of this is based on that idea that once you're logged in, we know everything about you. We know who you are, we know what your identifiers are, and we want to create that experience that is super customized, that you enjoy, that you are able to get done what you need to do quickly instead of having to wait. We also were able to use time-based roles. So for example, if your enrollment window wasn't open at that time, then I don't even need to tease you that you can enroll right now. So based on the time of the year, I was able to look at some tables in our PeopleSoft tables and be able to show an icon only based on the time of year that it was. And then finally, we were able to use things like off-campus student and remove the laundry icon because the laundry mat is only open for students who live on campus. So why would I take up space or distract them with extra unnecessary icons that they don't need? Now, these are just a couple ideas of ways that we were able to use my persona. Similarly, we could do something like have a student persona and then only show certain icons for graduate students or only certain icons for undergraduate students because I know all that information. I could really just carve it down to what they need to do. So you'll notice that FSU did kind of what I would call a hybrid approach to the my persona strategy. And so one idea is that you just have the my persona. And that means that me as an alum of the university and as a faculty member at the university and as a student, I could have one big, beautiful page that makes up all those identities. But what we found when we talked to users was that they actually see themselves in different roles. When I want to be in user experience, there's only some icons that I want to see. And then when I need to play my faculty role, there's only some icons I need to see. And so for us, it was okay that we toggle back and forth between an alumni view and a student view and a faculty and staff view. But within those views, I could use that authentication and only present to them the actual tools I needed for that role. So you can have a few different ways that you do my persona, but that is specifically how FSU approached the my persona strategy. So once we were able to have this new world, I'll avoid singing for you like Jasmine, but a whole new world was wide open because of authentication and knowing who we were. We started to work with Modo again and start thinking about what else could we do. Could we also start to move our mobile or our desktop portal into the same platform with Modo? Is that a possibility? Now that I know who you are, now that I know when you're logged in and where you are, maybe I could not do it just on the mobile app, but I could also take it to the next step. And that leads to even a bigger idea for FSU about that user-centric, seamless experience for FSU, where you could go from mobile to desktop, and we can create that experience for you. And so now I'm gonna hand things over to Andy, and he's gonna show you guys our latest project with Modo for the X module, where we're able to really start to curate not only the mobile experience, but we flip things over to desktop.
Thanks, Rebekah. So I'm excited to show you guys X module. again, part of the effort that was put towards the last couple of years to really begin to curate this personalized experience, to really create this MyFSU experience, was really centered around mobile and how can we integrate things from a mobile perspective. But still, for our users, the number one application they access on campus is our desktop portal. And not just students, but faculty and staff, applicants, admitted applicants, alumni. All these users access our desktop portal. And so there was a missing piece to our MyFSU experience, which is taking the integrations that we've done, taking the personalization and the branding and theming that we've done and do it on desktop. And so X module gave us the opportunity to do that on the desktop. And so this is what our desktop portal looks like today using X module. And so we have content on there. We have links on the left-hand side. We have, in the middle, we have a My Courses portlet where the students can see what the courses they're taking, how many hours those are. When their grades are posted, they're able to see what grade they got in that class. On the right-hand side, there's a My Task portlet where they can see if they have holds and to-dos on their account. We're pulling that into the system and displaying that front and center on the page. There's a My Finances portlet as well. So we're taking this information that's very personalized to who they are, because again, this is 100% authenticated. So when they come to my.fsu.edu, they're immediately prompted to authenticate. And like Rebekah said, once we know who they are, we can pull all their data in. And so the way we're doing this with X modules, actually this is one X module. This entire page is built using one X module. And so what that allows us to do, again, with this content, it's role-based. We're able to get that real-time data pulling in and really provide that consistent user experience. So one X module, so this is what it looks like. So if you're not familiar with X module, basically the way X module works is you create a JSON object that we send to Modo, and then it gets displayed on the page like that. So this is what our page looks like. So as you might imagine, this might be a little difficult to work in and day out. So for us to create this entire page using one X module and using one JSON object, that required us, we didn't want to be in here every day trying to manage content. So as we regularly update our content, posting HTML blocks. So if we have maintenance work going on, we post a header message at the top of the page. It says, here's what the maintenance is. We update student profiles on the page, et cetera. So we're constantly in there updating the content on the page. And so for us to be working in the JSON like this on a day in, day out basis, for us to do what we wanted to do with our portal, that was going to be a challenge. And so for us, we had a custom application built by our developers. So this is a Java application that we actually built in-house that actually is the JSON generator for us. And so what this allows us to do is not require full-time developers or even someone that's living in the JSON on a day in, day out basis. What this allows us to do is essentially we've with this application, we have all the components of X module on the side here that you pick and choose. So we can take a portlet or an HTML block and you can drag it over here onto the page, and then you can begin to build. And all this is built with the specifications for X module. And so what that allows us to do, again, is to be quick and responsive with how we build and update content on a regular. So we can drag and drop, and then that generates the JSON objects that we then send to Modalab. So you can see the types of things that we do. This UI is still a little rough because, again, it's just an application that we use internally. But like this, as an example, this is just an HTML portlet here that, again, we know all the user's information. And so if it happens to be their birthday, we just created this little personalization element to where on the day of their birthday, when they log into MyFSU, they'll actually see a happy birthday message on the top of the page. Just little things like that, the flexibility that you have with X module too. You've seen a lot already this morning of the different ways that customers are using X module. For us, this was the key when we were looking at moving our desktop portal that was previously on another application to the Modalabs platform. How could we do it? And so this is how we're doing it. And like I said, there's lots of ways that people are using X module, and I know we're excited to be here to see how others are using it. But this was important for us. So what have we learned with using X module and creating this? as Rebekah mentioned earlier, we do like to push the boundaries. FSU is, I think we're notorious for, we customize everything. So like, hey, this is a great tool, and then we customize, and push the boundaries. So what are some of the things that we've learned as we push the boundaries? So load for us, there's a lot of it. So we went from just a segment of campus using our Moto app, our mobile app, to literally every single person on campus using it. So that was a challenge for us in terms of the jump in our usage from MotoLab's side and our side as well. There's a ton of load. And then as a response on our side, because we have this internal application that runs, we receive all those requests from MotoLabs for those JSON objects, so that internally we had to deal with that load as well. First day of classes, when you literally have everybody jumping on at the same time on Monday morning, or when class registration opens, you have everyone jumping in there. So how does that look in the world of X module when you have these requests going back and forth for content? Cache was a big part of that, learning how cache is handling that. How's Moto's cache handling that on their side? How's that affecting the way our application runs? So we've learned a lot on that, and we've had to tweak and make adjustments, and so we've really started to fine tune what that looks like. And then from our users' perspective, they've experienced this now, and they really like what's there, but it's also prompting more questions. It's more like, well, this is great, but it'd be great if I could customize my own experience, or it'd be great if it could do this, great if it could do that. So our users want more of it. So we've had a little bit of, like I said, we've had some growing pains here and there as we begin to look and see how X module is working, both from Moto's side and from our side, and how we work together. So keep it stable, make sure it's not causing any issues, but again, they love it. It's so convenient, so useful. They love what that looks like. So moving forward with X module for us, one of the things that we're going to look at doing, we have tons of links on our page, and so one of the things users want to be able to do is quickly find the links they're looking for. And so we're excited to begin to look at using the events and actions capabilities of X module to provide an opportunity for users to start to type in what the content they're looking for and have X module bring that back. And so if they're looking for specific links, because a lot of these links are maybe based on the time of year, the function that they play. So they may access some of these links only a few times, maybe a couple times a year. So it's not as easy for them to remember, oh, that's which section that's under. So we're excited about that. And then just continuing to tune the way X module works, tuning on our side. How's our application handling the load and the requests? How are we utilizing the asynchronous portlets for the real-time data that we're trying to pull in versus maybe just what we're trying to do in terms of code replication, so content that's on multiple pages. How are we handling that? So continue to tune the way that we're utilizing X module. Another next step is the idea of predictive analytics. So now that we have all this information about what our users are doing, where are they going, how are they utilizing the pages, how can we begin to harness that and use that to curate the experience for them? So links that they commonly go to, portlets that they click links into, or information that they use, how can we use that to then begin to tailor the page that we send back to them based on the history? So we use Splunk as a log aggregator. I don't know if anybody uses Splunk here, but we use Splunk a ton as a log aggregator to really mine the data that we have from our users. And we hope to utilize that to really continue to customize the experience, not just based on their role, but based on their actual activity in the application. X component, we haven't utilized X component yet, but we want to. So we've had a huge focus on desktop this year when we rolled out our new portal. But we're looking to now take that back to the mobile app and say, okay, this is our next step in really personalizing that mobile experience. So, utilizing notifications, content as the example used here, like letting users know, like, hey, using their name so they feel personal, letting them know when they have actions that they need to take. That real-time information, beginning to integrate that into the mobile app. Individual personalization, that's what we're hearing. We talk to our users regularly, as Rebekah said, so some of the feedback we're hearing is they want some control as well. So these are things we hope we can figure out as we move forward is, can we allow users to change the way the page is laid out? Can they move portlets around or not? Those are things we'd like to see. They want to hide and show content. Hey, I don't need to see all this on the page. Is there a way for us to use content that's collapsible? Can we collapse this and hide it and show it? Those types of things. Can they favorite things? Can I move this to the top because I will use it all the time? Can I favorite links? Those are the types of things that we want to look at moving forward. Personalized messaging is another big one. We've used Communicate, not as much as some, but we've used it a little bit. We hope to really begin to utilize that more. One of the ways we want to utilize that is also using a Appsian messaging product as well to really take the information that's in our PeopleSoft systems and use that to communicate to our users, sending those personalized messages of actions that they need to take, really relevant information to them, getting them that relevant information at the right time when they want it, when they need it. Some examples of that, utilizing push notifications, giving them a message where they can click, drop in, take action on the things that they need to take action on. Touch ID is another one for us. We've kind of got moving forward with it and then got sidetracked a little bit, but this is another one where we want to really utilize this and fully implement it, just using that, again, making that user experience a lot smoother and a lot easier for users. They can just tap in. Again, if you're utilizing authenticated content, what's one of the hang-ups there, right? Username, password, typing that stuff in. So Touch ID is a big one for doing that as well. So this is, again, the X module has been huge for us. This is the one we've been kind of that main piece for us to really bring that MyFSU experience together. Again, the desktop piece is the front door that users are even accessing that from their mobile device, even though it's primarily a desktop application. Even when we had our previous portal product that was not very mobile friendly, we saw every year more and more users were dealing with the pinch and zoom and all that stuff. So regardless of the experience, we know they were going to go to it on their mobile devices. So with the desktop portal now, not only is it a great customized experience on the desktop, but now obviously it's a lot more user-friendly from a mobile perspective. So that's just a snapshot of what we're doing with X module as part of our overarching experience. I don't know if you guys have some questions. We'd be happy to answer some of that. And we're going to have a lunch tomorrow as well.
When you hit MyFSU on a mobile device, will it ask you to then download the app or give you a mobile pop-up or something?
Yeah, so if you don't have the app, and Matt, I know some of you guys are in here, so jump in here. If you don't have the app downloaded, I don't know if it will prompt you if you don't have the app. If you have the app downloaded, I believe it'll ask you initially if you want to open it in the app. Yeah. So I know for us that's the experience. So I believe the first time, and I think you can you adjust that? Is there a setting where you can allow whether you force to the app or not? I actually don't remember that.
It's all handled at the OS level in user points for iOS and for Android, basically. If you don't have the app installed, you'll stay on the mobile web. If you just punch in the URL and you have the app installed, you'll still stay on the mobile web. But if you click to a link that is sort of the same URL, iOS and Android will automatically jump you into, or suggest that you jump into.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm in and out of there all the time testing and stuff, so I couldn't remember. I've seen it some ways, I can't remember which ways I've done that.
I know on ours we have it where if you go to the web page instead of on the app, and I don't have the app, a button will show up that only shows up if you don't have it. So just download the app. You can click on it and it will download
Yeah, yeah.
Hi. We're actually doing something similar. We use Moto as our portal, and we'd love to do a lot of what you guys have. And it's awesome you guys addressed that. I guess my first question would be, what kind of manpower did it take for you guys to get the X module and those components working from a developer side? Because that's been our issues. We can't pulling in those resources and saying, oh, it's going to take me this, because we just don't really know. And then also the that more drag and drop interface, Because again, once we lose those programmers, it's like, oh, well, who's going to keep this running?
Right.
Yeah.
So our UX team is made up of 5 people in general, and so that's doing a variety of services, but Portal and Mobile falls within the UX team. So that's how many manpowers. As far as our dev team, who supports, they don't support the Portal or Mobile in a traditional sense. They only supported us to create that product so that we could use it ourselves.
And then how long did that take them?
It was not long. It was about 6 weeks for them to develop it.
Awesome.
And it's really a tool for us so that we can move faster and not need to rely on them.
Perfect, yeah.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, I noticed that the UI between the mobile and the portal looked distinctively different. Was that just a choice, or are you able to actually keep the layout the same between both mobile and desktop?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there. So for us, we currently still basically curate 2 experiences. So there's a mobile app experience that we have with the personas that we, the content that's there and the way that the user interface is, that is still distinctly mobile. And then there's also, you can access the MyFSU portal. And so we didn't have an image of what our portal looks like within the mobile app. So there are 2 different experiences in terms of if someone's coming to the mobile app, download the mobile app and is looking for maybe that traditional mobile app experience versus someone who uses the desktop portal on a day-to-day basis and then goes to it via web browser or even within the Kurogo app. So those experiences, the way we currently have them, are curated separately. But what we do with X module is we actually, based on the device recognition, we use the device recognition piece of that. So we actually serve a different X module page if they're coming from a mobile device. And it's really the same content, but in terms of the way it is laid out on a mobile device, we make some adjustments there. So we have 2 versions of every page and we have a faculty and staff page, a student page, an admitted applicants page, and a guest page in our desktop portal. And so for each of those pages, again, based on who they are, we'll serve them that page. And then if they access that page on a mobile device, then there's another version where we just sort of play with the layout and we serve that on a mobile device. So the things sort of fall in the right order that we'd like them to see. So I don't know if that sort of addresses your question there. They are 2 different things, but the more that, now that we're able to do so much more on the desktop and similar things on the mobile, I mean, that's one of the things we're certainly look at is, at what point do those start to, overlap? And so where do you sort of keep that mobile experience separate from what they experience on a desktop, from a design, I guess from an initial design side of it?
Have you gotten any feedback from users? Are they able to easily identify between desktop and mobile where to find the information?
Yeah. I would say our mobile strategy is more about what do you need to do on the go versus our portal experience is more, it's everything that you could potentially need to do. And so I think most people are able to follow along with us because every icon that we use on mobile, we use that exact same icon on desktop and among our campus solution system for PeopleSoft and things like that. So we're really consistent with the words we use and the icons we use. So that helps kind of bridge that gap.
If you're in the mobile experience, is there a link from the mobile experience to the portal? And then when you get done, because you may need some information that the portal has, and then you can go back to the mobile?
Yes, so using personas, we've set up the desktop portal as a persona. And so using the persona selector within the app, they can toggle back and forth. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have one X module for the app and then one X module for the portal? Or is it all one X module?
We only use X module for the desktop piece. Yeah. So for the mobile pages, those are traditional. There's a Launchpad module for the guest page, and then we use the publisher modules for the other personas. And then the other modules within there, we utilize some of the other mobile pages. But yeah, right now we were only using X module for the desktop portal.
So I'm just wondering if desktop is a persona, when people are on the desktop part, can they also have a student or a staff persona, or they just get there's just one persona for desktop?
There are multiple pages. Let me see if I can go back here. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, no, that's fine. On their portal page, if they have multiple roles, so let's say if they're a student and they also work for the university, we know that, and so we'll display a button where they can toggle back and forth. So there's content on the portal for them to use as a faculty and staff member. They can click that and they can go to the faculty and staff page, and vice versa. If they don't have multiple roles on campus and they only have one, then we just serve them the page and there's no button for them to toggle. Other than, again, if they are familiar with the app and they go up in the browser and use the persona selector, they can technically jump over to the mobile pages and do that. But within the desktop piece, we provide a button on the page in their little My Profile section if they have multiple roles on campus. So underneath, well, we have it collapsed in this. In the upper right-hand corner, it says welcome. It's kind of hard to see. It's small and blurry, but there's a welcome.
Seminole.
And they're Seminole, and that's actually an expandable section. And underneath there is like their student ID, and if they have multiple roles where they would want to toggle from faculty and staff to student or et cetera, or if they're a admitted applicant and they can toggle back and forth, that there's buttons there and they can click them.
One more question back here.
Okay.
Is there any noticeable latency when generating the desktop from all the requests from Modo to your servers to generating the JSON? Is there any lag?
No.
I mean, it loads like any other web page you go to. I mean,
Yeah. That is why we decided to make one big X module instead of multiple X modules to load the page, was because we were worried about that load. We thought that it would load up faster as one big piece. Now, that may not have been the right strategy, but there weren't a lot of people doing X module before we were, and so we didn't have anyone to ask to say, will it matter if we load up 15 portlets all as 15 different X modules? We thought the load would handle it better as one big one. So somebody else try it and let us know if we made the right choice.
That's one of the things I mentioned about that fine-tuning that page is just sort of, we've talked to Matt and Pete about that, like what are the things that way we're building the page and the way that we're utilizing. Some of these portlets are asynchronous, some of them are just HTML portlets. And so, there's for the asynchronous ones, those are all individual calls, so you have a call for the page and you have calls for the individual portlets. And so that's some of the things that we've discovered, when we figured out some of the issues with cache and pages loading and load on our side, load on their side. Those are some of the things that we're trying to figure out. What are the best ways to fine-tune the way we're utilizing and building the page? How do we build it better so that it functions better? And then, how do the cache settings play in there? So we've had some hiccups there with, portlets not loading or the page not loading for various reasons, but we're working those bugs out. And generally speaking, the page just loads like any other website. Yeah.